Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Mentorship Program. The advantages and disadvantages of self-storage facilities. Self-storage facilities are everywhere. You see them all the time. They kind of look like little warehouses with doors and so forth, but they're really popular across America. Self-storage facilities can be an excellent investment that, frankly, a lot of business investors and real estate investors completely overlook. Now, why do I say business investors? Because not only is it a piece of real estate, it is a business. So you're buying not just the real estate, you're buying the business. Usually it's operated by the owner or they have some employees working for them. Self-storage facilities can be a great cash cow. The average rent revenue per square foot is about $1.12 for non-climate controlled facilities and pushing $1.50 on the climate controlled facilities. And that's an average facility is about 46,000 square feet. That's 1 acre of building, probably on anywhere from 3 to 5 acres. The ratio is about 1 to 5. So if you have a 60,000 square foot facility, you're probably going to need like 6 acres. That is just what it's going to be. And it's not that difficult construction. It's build a floor, build 2 floors, whatever. Yeah, you can have a multi-story thing, but you're putting a bunch of garage doors up is what you're really doing. 9% of U.S. households rent at least one self-storage facility. 27% of self-storage renters live in a condo or apartment. But that's not the only tenant you might have. You could easily have business tenants. Most customers are renting it because they don't have storage options, a garage, a basement, or attic. But the recent national self-storage occupancy rates stand at, frankly, over 85%. And there are lots of facilities in major cities that are sitting up there at the 90+% occupancy. How do I know this? Because our firm has financed a lot of self-storage facilities. We've gone to the self-storage conventions and we know what's going on and what is happening in this marketplace because it is a very good market for me as an investor and as a commercial mortgage broker. Self-storage facility has several advantages such as leverage, favorable tax treatment, passive income, and appreciation. Those are 3 awesome things. Leverage is always good for commercial property, but a favorable tax treatment, why do I say that? Because you could write off some of those tenant improvements sooner and quicker. It's passive income. You're not really managing employees or tenants. You have people come in and out maybe once a month, once a quarter, once a year, and it has capital appreciation pending in it. It benefits from cheaper development costs. I mean, I'm a contractor, I'm a broker, I'm a developer. I know what it costs to build these things. And it's a lot less expensive than building an apartment building or an office building for sure. The development costs and the construction costs are both lower, and it's a better deal. Month-to-month agreements does not provide you with a level stream of income necessarily, but it happens to provide you an ability to adjust the rents as needed. And crazy part of it is, even though they're month-to-month agreements, there are people who have their stuff in storage for years and years and maybe a decade. Now, there's probably not anything in that little shed that's worth that amount of money, but people don't want to let go of their stuff. So they will pay and pay and pay. If you raise the rents, they'll probably continue to pay because it's easier because they got no place else to put it. And it would just be more convenient to just simply pay $10 more a month than move all that stuff someplace else. Demand for self-storage doesn't dramatic based on the economy. It is all the time. It's both business and individuals. A combination of business and individual customers, on average, 30% of the renters of a self-storage are businesses. They're storing goods, inventory, records, and that's pretty stable business. And if you have 30% of the renters being businesses just having their credit card charge, or billed monthly, that's not bad. The individual demand, according to the United States Census data, approximately 40 million people a year move. Might they need an interim facility to place that stuff in? Might they come buy boxes from you? All those things are possible. The delinquency process is faster by far than it is in apartments or even office buildings or anything else, because it generally permits an auctioning of the contents to cover the indebtedness. You lock it up, they can't get in, they don't pay, they don't get back. Now, there are individual state rules for sure and local rules, but there are no rent regulations covering the charges for self-storage. Many times you can have rent control, but you don't have rent control in a self-storage facility. That doesn't happen. I know of no jurisdiction in the United States that has regulations on covering rents because it's not viewed as a residence and covered by the rules of consumer protectionism for homeowners and for home renters and for apartment dwellers. The expenses for maintenance and repair are nominal. You basically have to replace a couple of locks. Occasionally a door might get broken. You have a security system that pretty well takes care of the security, and you might have a junkyard dog running around the yard at night, or you might have video or lights or whatever. There is a limited need for capital improvements. Once you build it, you set it and forget it. You're not building, unless you're going to build more storage units, there's not much to do. There's not much repair. How much damage can you do to a block-constructed facility with a steel door on front? Not much damage. There's low liability insurance rates because there's very few activities on the property. You may have some employees, but they're basically running around in a cart or walking around and opening doors that can't get open or introducing people to their new door. Without people living there all the time, because no one's living there at all, without retail traffic coming up doing tons and tons of visits, the cost for insurance will be lower. Most renters have a month-to-month agreement, and rents can be adjusted without any restrictions. There's no rules on that. Now, you got to be realistic and practical. You can't raise it every month, but you could raise it once a year or something like that. Would that be nice? They're not moving their stuff. A $10 bill is not going to make that much of a difference. And $10 times $10 times $10 would be additional cash flow to you because your overhead didn't go up a dime. Higher capitalization rates than other commercial property. So if you're trying to get a higher cap rate, you're more likely to get a higher cap rate on a self-storage facility. Now, I will tell you, as a lender, they do require a higher debt service coverage ratio, but it's not that much higher. 5 points is not that big a deal. 30 as opposed to 25. But the crazy part of it is some of the lenders out there right now that I know are actually making it possible that you don't have to make the first 2 months' payments. They build that into the structure because they know you're ramping up. What lender does that? They don't do it for apartments. They don't do it for office buildings. They don't do it for shopping centers. They don't do it for industrial parks. But the lenders right now are out doing that stuff right now for this particular product type. Interesting. The higher number of renters reduce your risk because you're not dependent on one or two tenants. You have hundreds, maybe thousands of tenants. So if you have a vacancy, it's not that noticeable. Your cash flow is pretty solid. It works well in proximity to apartments. From my perspective, if you own an apartment like that, would it be nice to have a nearby facility where people could store their stuff off-site? And you've got a captive audience. Could you tell them that you'll give them 1 month free and put the flyers in every one of your apartments? Yes, you could. I know apartment owners who own these things because it's a good synergy. Does that make sense? I think so. Now, there are some possible disadvantages. Obviously, you need to do your due diligence and find out and evaluate the real numbers. You got to have the numbers because it's all about the NOI, all about the cash flow. It's also evaluate the competition. What's going on with the rentals? Is there an overbuild situation? Not likely, but possible. Maybe somebody else is building a new facility and they plan to take all your clients if they can get them. They're going to put a sign up right outside your house, someone with a billboard. Hey, free rent for a month or whatever, down the road. What are they giving in terms of a rent concession? Because the issues that affect self-storage is, one, interest rates on the rate of the loan, the overall economy. Well, it has dual effects. If things are being downsized, the people are going to store this stuff. If businesses are hurting and they're not storing as much inventory, maybe that'll affect it. But obviously, the biggest bugaboo, the biggest problem, biggest issue is competition and how that will affect your occupancy of your facility. It is a highly competitive industry in certain areas. There are areas we have a lot of residential and a lot of apartment buildings. And it's not that hard to get in and out of these things. You can take your stuff and move it out, rent a truck for $19 at some rental place, and get all your stuff and move it someplace else. If you got a 25% reduction in your rate for somebody else and a free month's rent or a free quarter rent, I don't know, would you move? I don't know. It's competitive. The lien laws on how long property should be stored vary from state to state. Please Google it, check it out with the local authority. Find out what the rules are. You've seen all those storage wars of what's in there, and who knows whether it's worth the rent? I don't know. Usually it's enough to cover the rent. Now, is it enough to make a boatload of money? No, not necessarily. Could you? Maybe. Well, you've seen a half dozen of them on TV who make a few dollars, but it's enough to cover your rent for $100 for a month. That's for sure. Success of new properties depends on marketing and the competition. Your ability to fend off your competition, to keep your people to be loyal with you, to provide them with things that make their life easier, like access on the weekends, access 24 hours. On security, it makes sense. But if you restrict them, they only come in between 9 and 5 or 10 and 4 or 5 days a week, and maybe on the weekends. You have people who are going to compete with you on doing better marketing and better facilities that meet their needs. Price isn't always the real bottom line. It's what you're going to get, what value you're going to get, access, how often, how easy. On-site management may be required unless the facility is totally automated. Well, frankly, you need to have somebody there who's going to take in these new clients. Yes, the building could be basically operated with self-storage, automated, but you need somebody to take the revenue to handle it, getting a new person in there, get them their lock, and take them down the road. But it's not that labor-intensive, for sure. But it does require some on-site management. There's a potential liability in the event that someone's possessions are lost or stolen or damaged. Well, they have to sign a waiver, but you still have to have an insurance policy. Even though you have a waiver saying that they're leaving it at their own risk, kind of like you have a bailment deal when you park your car. If you do your due diligence properly, and you verify the competition, and you know what the numbers are, and you made an intelligent, informed business decision, then you can possibly make a boatload of money buying a self-storage facility. They are financeable, it's a doable deal, and it's a modest way to start because it doesn't have a lot of property management. You don't have tenants. You have people who are renting a storage locker. All of that just makes sense. This is what it's all about, helping you become an informed, intelligent, commercial real estate investor. Take care.